All right. Welcome to another episode of FOMO Hour here today, folks. Good morning. Good morning, of course. I missed our intro. Good morning. GM. This is episode 188 of FOMO Hour. We are encroaching on 200 episodes here. That's going to be a big one today. It is Tuesday, August 27th, 2024. It is another hot, sunny morning here today in Chicago, folks. We're touching 95 degrees. It doesn't usually get that hot in Chicago. We're not used to this, but it seems like today is going to be the hottest, and then we're going to cool off. We thought the crypto markets were hot. Again, finally, we thought, but alas, it seems like perhaps another head fake pump and more summer chop in store for us here in the weeks ahead. We'll talk about it on today's show. Folks, no Farokh today. He is still traveling around Asia. We've got Mando on with us, as always. Mando, Jim, how you doing?
Doing great, man. Yeah, there's a little bit of wind out of the sails of the crypto market, it feels like. I think everyone's just waiting for NVIDIA tomorrow. It's like the main thing from a macro perspective. But I just felt like we could short squeeze for a little bit more, didn't it? It felt like we could go to 66, 67K, and this hasn't happened.
This one felt different. Like that was the consensus on Friday. We're actually out of this. And no, the answer is no, we're not. Maybe NVIDIA will save us tomorrow. Folks, if you're in the stream, you might recognize a new face. We've got Jeebs on with us. I typically have been doing a Tuesday macro show with Jeebs, Dees, and Peter Jennings on the Lucky Lead show. We're bringing him in. We're merging shows. He's on FOMO Hour here this morning. If you don't know Jeebs, he's a renaissance man in the crypto space. He's a collector. He's an investor. He's a quant. He really does it all. Jeebs, Jim, how you doing?
GM guys, happy to be here, man. Gonna try and bring that Farokh energy. I think that's just like a critical part of the show. Can't replace him, but
just don't even try. It's impossible.
Happy to be here, guys. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course. Well, thank you for joining us. Folks, I'm going to try to get the screen share up and running because I'm distracted this morning from a collection, an NFT collection that Jeeves just sent me right before the show. It might be a sign. Are we back? So there is a Punks derivative NFT collection actively trending on Base right now. It's called Pinux. It's
how do you pronounce that one, Tyler? What's the pronunciation there?
Yeah, we meant to put this one out to vote. I'm going with Pinux. It's got 16 ETH volume on this set. It's close to a 0.01 ETH floor. Already 1,500 unique owners. I mean, it's your classic punk derivative, but it looks like they're mixing in like the brainlet meme here with the heads indented. I don't know. I feel like we haven't seen a punks derivative or just really a meme NFT collection run in some time. Jeeves, how'd this go on your radar?
Some folks passed it over and I looked at it and just immediately laughed. I think it's hard not to. And then for me, like you said, like we haven't seen a punks derivative in a long time. I haven't seen anything really take off that well on Base as well. And so it seemed kind of fitting. And then I just saw it and like it just constantly kept updating. So I scooped up a couple myself, but it's one of those ones I might actually watch for a little bit. Yeah, what do we have here on the top sales? What is that?
Someone's paid $1,300 for that thing. And the hoodie aliens selling for 0.1. So yeah, some rare sales here in the punks derivative. This is what this market needed. You know, we've been shopping all summer. We really just needed a new good punks derivative NFT collection on Base. That's what's going to get us out of this chop summer for sure. So we'll check back in on the Pinux floor here during the show. Folks, we've got a good one on deck. We're going to start with Mando's market report. We're going to talk Base. So quietly, Pinux aside, Base passed 1 million active users on the daily or on Monday. So we're going to talk about that. 84,000 new crypto millionaires. Pac-Man's cryptic blast tweet about bridges no longer being needed. Perhaps some PolyMarket, and then Jeeves. He's got a good one for us in the story. He did a nice little, I'm going to call it an essay on crypto narratives, past, present, dormant, active, and we're going to dive into that later in the show as well. Plus, folks, it's Tuesday. It means Rollbit spins are on deck. As a reminder, to be eligible for that, make sure you retweet the spaces. Make sure you follow all of the hosts to be eligible for those Rollbit spins. All right, with that, I think let's dive right in. Let's start with that Mando market report. Sims.
Who is the man, macro daddy of the land? Can you dig it?
Yeah, so as we already said, guys, it does feel as though it's a little bit of a weak day. Bitcoin's headed below 62K. ETH is headed around to 2,600. Wow. ETH continues to underperform, right? Solana slightly outperforming, at least versus ETH, I would say 154. But yeah, just a bit of a softer day. Like I said, tomorrow we have Nvidia earnings, which I think it's a bit of a bellwether. Stocks had a little bit of a weak day yesterday, or a mixed day yesterday. I think the Dow hit all-time highs, but other tech stocks were a little bit mixed. So I think people will be waiting to see the results of that. It was a good day, and it has been a good period here for the ETF. We've had 12 straight days of inflows into the Bitcoin ETF. Yesterday was the biggest inflow day for the BlackRock ETF in 35 days. Overall, it was around 203 million across all Bitcoin ETFs. ETH is 8 straight days of outflows. So it was another 30 million of outflows yesterday. The what's been interesting to me just looking at that data is that it's BlackRock that aren't really seeing huge amount of inflows on their ETH ETF product. Like, I think everyone expected the Grayscale ETH trust to lose funds, but like the main winner is BlackRock, and they've had many days recently of zero inflows. And that's the big delta here. Like, if you go to Bitcoin, I think BlackRock has had something like only 1 day or 2 days of zero flows in. They had 1 day of an outflow, I think, very, very small. But like, BlackRock get money into that fund every day, and it's all buy and hold. That's what they're saying. They're saying it's all from like buy and hold style funds, and they're just not getting it for ETH. And I think that's kind of worries me slightly, because Grayscale is Grayscale. You know, they'll keep on having outflows forever. But the fact that BlackRock can't convince institutional funds to be buy and hold tells me this was a bunch of people who own the ETH trust for Grayscale and probably just buying ETH outright now. Like, there's no new institutional money going in if BlackRock aren't seeing sustained inflows, in my opinion. Fidelity are seeing some inflows on the ETH side, but it's definitely looking a little bit precarious there from a BlackRock side, at least, or an institutional side, which you'd assume that they would dominate. So that's the one thing I'm looking at. You have seen an all-time high hit for stablecoin TVL. We did speak about this last week, and we said that was probably in range. We did hit 168 billion now on stablecoin TVL, which is great. You saw this week also that Russia is going to start using crypto for all of its trade payments, which could see the amount of throughput going through on things like Tron go even higher than they already are right now. It does feel as though a lot of stablecoin transfers are going to be picking up if Russia starts to use all of its, or it starts to settle a lot of its dollar trade using stablecoins, or non-dollar trade even as well. They say they'll create stablecoins for all the different major trading partners. But good sign for payment side of the business, even if it's getting around US sanctions. The TON situation we spoke about yesterday, that it hadn't gone low enough. Well, it went lower. It looks like Duro is probably going to be in prison for a little bit of time here, although there's been some diplomatic pressure for him to. Oh, it's actually recovered a little bit. But once the charges came out, they were pretty serious, as expected. Terrorism, child pornography, getting around sanctions, all the classic ones. There was some pressure seemingly coming from the UAE and from Russia today to free him. I don't know. It feels as though Macron came out yesterday and kind of wanted to wash his hands of the situation. So I feel as though he could be in prison for a while. PolyMarket, I didn't check today, but they had it a 25% chance that he'd get out this month. Yesterday, I imagine that's gone lower. But
it looks to be higher.
Wow,
40%. That feels
higher.
high.
Wow.
There's 4 days left in the month.
That seems high, but maybe there is. I mean, UAE's got a lot of political clout to it, you know.
So this is like released from custody, not actually remaining just within France.
Released from custody, yes.
Yeah, so I imagine that would be in bail. I don't know. Interestingly, like this, what they said yesterday, this doesn't fall under the EU regulations. This is a France thing. So I don't know. Maybe that makes it less serious, more serious. It definitely, I don't know. Definitely feels like
no shortage of conspiracy theories on this one.
Yeah, exactly. But
Do you have any favorite conspiracy theories for you?
No, I have no comment on this one in general. This is one of those ones I just want to see play out. No thoughts.
Well, there's a lot of talk about how Telegram is used right now by the Russian military, particularly on the front line. And so there's a lot of pressure there, maybe from Russia around that. UAE is obviously a UAE citizen, but I imagine a lot of the UAE also uses Telegram. And who knows? Like there's clearly a lot of people that could be affected if this stuff starts to come out. So I really don't know. I feel like though if he gets out, it'll be because a deal is made, and we might not even know what that deal is. And I don't know if that's even a good thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we'll know if he starts playing ball, because there's no way he'll make that public. So,
do you think he goes down with the ship, Mando? Like, do you think he's the kind of person that would, spend a ton of years in prison or sell out?
Well, he did leave Russia when this thing happened last time, right? So when Russia asked him for the keys for his last social media project, he just left, raised a bunch of money, and moved to UAE.
Mm-hmm.
So doesn't feel like the sort of guy that will go to prison for his morals. Feels like the sort of guy that will run. So
He's got 100 kids to take care of. He's fathered 100 kids. Someone has to take care of all those mouths to feed.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a lot of charges. I mean, that was I think it really hit yesterday when we saw the laundry list here. So it's going to take quite a bit of cooperation. The PolyMarket line has me feeling, I guess, a little bit differently. I mean, you always have to wonder if it's sharp money or dumb money coming in on this, but 40%, I would have put it at like 10% or lower.
Yeah, for sure. These are very serious charges. These don't just get dropped. And if they do get dropped, he's basically just giving up the keys, right? Like, or something very serious has happened. I don't know.
Maybe that's why Ton is going to be trading in line with these odds.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's why I was surprised that Tom was higher, but maybe that's because his odds, it hit a low of, looks like it went down to like 25% when the allegations were hit, and then it's gone up to 40% since. So
yeah,
maybe people are in the know. He's a wealthy man with a lot of very, very wealthy friends and powerful friends. Maybe he gets out.
Not a ton of only 200K. Let's see who the top holders are. And no one's bet huge on this. So yeah, we will certainly see.
How big is this market?
About $200,000 bet so far.
Okay,
so not bad, but and there's
unravels soon too. A few days, right?
Yeah. So
we'll see.
Saturday, right?
I do like going on the PolyMarket homepage. Like, if you just click on the homepage, you just see like what people are betting on. Like, it's, I don't know, just Israel Hamas ceasefire in 2024, 50-50 shot. Like, you just don't know. Like, you read about these stories and you just like, you have no real concept of, is that going to be true or not? I like going onto it because you do get very much closer, or you're able to read the news in a slightly different way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was actually going through these this morning. The one that was surprised me the most is actually the highest grossing movie in 2024 with Inside Out 2. There's still so much time left in this year where like, I don't know much about this or like how much this is brought in, but I find it really surprising that this is already so solidified. And I feel like taking no's on something like this that has a lot of time to resolve. I don't know, seems like an all right bet. Tyler, you're the pro here, Tyler.
Moana 2 is coming out around Thanksgiving.
He's such a pro. He knows the line. He knows the line. He knows Moana 2 is coming out.
But what I haven't seen, I need to look at the Inside Out 2 revenue numbers. Clearly they're high.
Oh my God. 9 million bet?
Yeah, this is a big one. I mean, this feels like one where you could crunch the numbers and kind of try to create an edge.
So this thing, like
9
Deadpool
million.
and Wolverine's only down by, it's actually kind of quite a bit. But I feel like there's room, right? So it's 1.6 billion, it looks like worldwide. I don't know. Like Deadpool, Wolverine's at 1.2 billion. To your point, Tyler, there's still so many movies coming out this year. I guess you're right. You have to look to see what's coming out this year, what has, a probability of taking that down. But bets like these where it seems inefficient.
What about this monkeypox one? Confirmed case of monkeypox in the US by September 30th. Feels like that at 37% chance. I reckon that one.
Which side do you like?
I think there's going to be a case of monkeypox.
Well, so I bet yes on the August line. I bet yes on the August line when it was like super hyped up, and now that's basically at 0 unless we get a miracle draw out here.
A miracle.
Wrong bad use of the word miracle.
Tyler, what's your process like here? Like when you go take bets, I feel like you're deep in the PolyMarket streets. You're out here, right? You're taking smart bets. What's your process like? Like, how do you go about approaching a bet? What's the research?
Okay, let's read it back. Smart bets. Like,
yeah, I think I have a combination of smart bets where like I grind and try to find an edge, and once I win those bets, I get much looser and I start gambling. Like the monkeypox bet, I did not have an edge on in any way. It just felt like there were the headlines going around that it was already in the water in San Francisco. I didn't dig into that enough to know that was the old strain of monkeypox and not the new one. So that was a misread by me. I think the election ones have been. I feel like the election ones are still some of the easiest to bet on because there's a lot of emotional betting. And then you can use things like Nate Silver's election model to understand, where states are coming in. So I've been mostly having success there. The Farokh and me, we've been betting on the words, the mention markets for all the speeches, or I think that's dying out a little bit. I think another edge is on sports. So the sports markets aren't super liquid yet, but there was like in the main Kella boxing match in the Olympics, he was going off as like a 3-1 favorite on PolyMarket, and she was a 10-1 favorite on sportsbooks. So you can find those types of discrepancies.
That's what I was saying. I was talking to OSF around this 2 days ago and being like, there's going to be so many different prediction markets. Like people are just going to be arbitraging these all day. Sports feels like the main one where there's going to be massive differences and you'll be able to make money doing it. Yeah. But yeah, I guess the liquidity isn't like insane at this stage, but what do you think of Alex take yesterday, where he was like, "This is not betting. This is not gambling."
Let's try to find that. I think I'm on the opposite side. So we've seen like Nick Tomeno and crew. So there was the narrative out there that PolyMarket was the truth.
There's something to be said about that. What I would say is like what I said this morning, which was we're looking at the news slightly differently, having seen those lines. But I mean, when we're betting on the words that Kamala Harris is going to say in a fucking speech, it does feel like we're just gambling at this stage.
Is fantasy sports gambling?
I don't know. The version of fantasy sports where in the UK, I think is quite different to here. Like yours often has like DraftKings. I don't really know how it's done, but there is like added sweepstakes style odds to some of this stuff, isn't there? We don't really have that
skill game. Is that kind of how it goes by? Yeah.
We have like they're quite separated in the UK. So like the fantasy football game in the UK is like not for money. Or you can have very small cash gains, but like they're not really based around money. And then you have sports betting, which is like slightly very big in the UK and legal, and lots of people do it.
Another way to
I would say the way that the US does, the way that the US does it does feel more like gambling or closer to it.
What do we got here? Oh, Vitalik. Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, he's saying putting PolyMarket in the category of gambling is a massive misunderstanding of what prediction markets are and why people are excited about them. They're interesting because they're a social epistemic tool. Public gets a view of how important certain events are and what kinds of things are likely to happen with less editorial opinion than social media or news websites. So I think in general that can be true, but PolyMarket is a lot of things. And there are plenty of betting markets on PolyMarket that trend based on news that's being published by media and social media. So, example, Beyonce performing at the DNC last week. There was rumors going around Twitter. PolyMarket bet that up to 97%. So if you log in and you're saying, okay, Beyonce is confirmed to perform at DNC, and then she does it. So like everyone was just speculating on rumors that they saw. So like there are certainly other lines that are more like true to the real world. And I think there's others where people are just betting and gambling. So I think you have to take everything with a grain of salt.
The Walt VP is another good example where there was like video surfacing of all the cars coming out of his house. The odds changed almost instantly. Like Shapiro was 80% at one point, and then it just nosedived. Walsh came up. So you're right. There's like people have alpha on some of these, or like could get information pretty quickly on them.
It is very good at breaking news fast as well. So like the Waltz, like as soon as the big black cars were running out of Waltz's driveway, the line shot up, right? And I think they're trying to lean into that. So they've got this new breaking news tab. You know, Mando mentioned how it's an interesting way to kind of start your day by just seeing kind of what is trending. And I agree with that. And the markets have gotten much more diverse now than just purely election markets. So you get a little bit more pop culture, like Bieber baby, boy or girl is a breaking news line. It looks like he's having a boy. Congrats to Justin. See if there's any other breaking news here. Telegram banned by a European country at 11%. Oh, so the microphone's muted. That's the hot one in that now Trump and Kamala are fighting a bit over the rules of the next debate. And is
that so they can't interrupt each other like mid?
It is, as I understand it. So the rules were set to be the same as the last one, where they were muted, and Trump had agreed to those rules, and apparently it's the Harris campaign who wants them unmuted. And I saw, because, and this is not me, that they want America to see how unhinged he is. And he's like, no, we already agreed to these rules, which I'm on Trump's side. Like the rules are set, like you go with the rules. But
yeah.
And there's some interesting ones on this list. Oh, this was the most interesting one. Let's just take 1 second on this, then we'll move on from PolyMarket. If RFK drops out, who will gain more in the polls? This is one where, like, if you read crypto Twitter, everyone was saying RFK dropping out is good for Trump, and PolyMarket is on the opposite with $870,000 bet. But I
think I agree with this.
Yeah,
I think if RFK dropped out, it was always going to be a benefit to the Democrats, right? Because he split their ticket. The best scenario for Republicans would be that he dropped out and endorsed Trump. So I think they've got the best of a bad scenario, basically, in that.
Yeah. How do they define these rules here, Tyler?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. It's measured by the Real Clear Politics daily polling averages, and they only run through August 30th. So this is another one where you can just sit down and do the math, check the polls from the last 4 days, start to think how they're going to project out for the next 3 days, and try to reach a conclusion. I mean, you have to imagine if nothing major happens in the next 3 days, the polls aren't going to be super unchanged, I would guess. You know, perhaps some of the DNC pump is wearing off. Perhaps some of the RFK endorsement is wearing off. I don't know, but I'm not really expecting a whole lot of change until September 10th, the next debate. So an interesting line to watch. This actually aligns with one of your narratives, Jeep. So perhaps we just get into this part of the show. I think we went around the horn. Mando, that was a great market report. I didn't really have a whole lot else. I think maybe just quickly going around on a few other headlines. So we did see Base reach 1 million active users. Shout out to Milk Road. They've been doing a great job with their graphics. That number jumped out to me. Perhaps we'll talk about that a little bit in some of your narratives. Memes totally dead. There's basically no memes over 10 million in the green. There's a handful on the day. So not a whole lot of action. NFTs kind of giving back some of their recent gains as well. So not a whole lot else. But Jeeves, I did want to get into some of your narratives. So I'm a big narrative guy myself. One who likes to craft narratives following price action, which I think is a common trend in crypto Twitter. But you did a nice job here, basically an essay, thousands of words laying out your thoughts on the crypto landscape. So why don't you walk us through this a bit, and then we'll get into some discussion.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that. This has just been something I've been thinking about for a while. You know, I work in the venture space within crypto, and I'm similar to you. I think about things in narratives. I'm not a technical trader. I'm not looking at the 1 minute chart, doing none of that. But I think if you can like spot narratives early on, they shift, they change, they evolve. So I started thinking, okay, how can you bucket narratives in the space and then continually think about these and present them out to folks to get some thoughts? So really, I broke it down to 3 categories. The first one's going to be your spotlight narratives. These are things that are in the limelight. People have a ton of attention toward them. They're getting a ton of venture funding. People are watching them closely. They're being shilled like crazy. 2 then is your brewing narratives. You're starting to see key people go ahead and talk about these things. They're gaining some momentum. They could enter the spotlight soon. Maybe they were in the spotlight and they've slowed down into the brewing category. And then the third one is just flat out dormant. These narratives, you know, they were in the spotlight or they were gaining traction and they've kind of just lost steam. And they have the opportunity to resurface and get back up there, or they honestly could just die off. So laid out a bunch of different things here. You know, we could talk through a few of them, and then maybe I'd love to talk to you guys about them and just see within those categories, what are some that really are interesting to you guys?
Yeah, let's do it. So maybe let's start with some of the. We're going to start at the top with some of your spotlight narratives. So we just talked about prediction markets. I think certainly one that most listeners, those who are active, are familiar with. You've got new layer ones, ton of ecosystem memes, ETFs, institutional adoption, political favor, stablecoin usage, DPIN. I know you're into DPIN a bit. Maybe we'll come back to that. I don't know. I think a very interesting one for me is the new layer ones.
Yeah, I did mess up. One of these is not a layer 1. FYI, someone corrected me on that. But still, new chains. These new super hype chains, fast, cheap, culture growing around them, a lot of hype.
Yeah, when Say was being hyped all over the timeline, right? For rightfully or wrongfully, for grant reasons or not for grant reasons, I think it kind of revised this narrative of what is the next killer L1. And it's an important one, right? Because if you identified Solana as the next killer L1 last cycle, that was an incredible trade. So now I think folks are trying to figure out what could be that next one. And I think it's somewhat consensus that folks think Solana will be, you know, is the killer L1 of this cycle, but will not be next cycle. At least that's my read. So I'm curious, Jeeves, A, do you align to that? And then B, do you have a thought? Do you have a leader on who you think might be the Solana killer or the hot L1 for next cycle?
Yeah. So the Solana killer narrative comes from the past 2 cycle narratives we've seen. The first one being the Bitcoin killer narrative, where you had stuff like Litecoin, other people that were chasing that. Then you had the ETH killer narrative, where all these other chains sprouted up. AVAX, you know, Poly, you know, whatnot. And now with Solana in the spotlight, it's clear that there's other folks that are kind of going after that same area, which is sort of culture, high throughput, a lot of users on there. Out of these 3, so folks that can't see, it's Monad, Bearchain, Mega ETH, as the 3 that really I'm seeing the most on my timeline. Hard to say which ones end up being the most positive here, but I think the one I see the most is probably Bearchain, that folks are continually talking about, sort of a novel consensus mechanism, and just a lot of folks talking about, you know, random products or things being built there, a lot of shilling on it. And so that's probably my number 1 pick. I think it's also the first to come to market, so it'll have the first opportunity to really shine. I think later this year. I think Monad's early next year. Mega ETH, not entirely sure on the timeline there. What do you guys think? I mean, I'm sure you guys are seeing a ton of this. Is any sprouting up to you? Any thoughts here?
So when you talk about these narratives, are you thinking about it from the VC side of things or from the public market side of things?
It's really just from my perspective, which I think mostly comes from like VC.
Yeah. I feel like the issue about a lot of these, and like, I guess the altcoin cycle, this cycle has just been, you can identify the narratives and then get completely wrecked on trying to buy them in liquid markets, right? I think this is a really good list of which ones to buy into, which are popular narratives. I just still find it really difficult to work out like what are the good investments in those narratives sometimes. Like for example, you could probably have said that about Blast, but then was Blast a good investment? Like it probably was for the VCs. Like it got itself to a $2 billion market cap or whatever it was, or even higher. And that's probably still been a good VC trade, but it's still been difficult for users to like at times. And I feel like that's still where I'm at with a lot of these. I think these are really good narratives, but I feel as though they will flow back. The value of a lot of these, I think the easiest way to play them is still with the L1s. So I think the most important question as well is then which L1 is next cycle's L1. I do think Monad, for me, was the one that I felt like had the best chance out of those. Berachain, it feels okay. They all have their differences in tech, but it felt like Berachain was all built around bears, and like it was a bit kind of kooky in that world. I don't know if that goes to like 50 billion, but I feel like Monad has had a shot, and I was really bullish on Ton. Like I really did feel like Ton had a really good shot at being that one as well. Like because it has so many different users. Like if you have 1 billion users, that's a very, very big deal. But now I'm less sure. And I've even been pitching myself like the Tron bullish case. That's what I've been pitching myself a little bit. Like, look at Tron. It makes more fees than Solana and ETH, right? It makes it's on track to make like close to $1.5 billion of fees this year if it continues at its current rate. And it is very clearly going to be the blockchain which allows dodgy transfers between different countries that are probably under US sanctions. And Russia's just said, hey, we're basically going to allow that as part of our, like, is that not just the screaming trade? Like Tron is just going to allow the 70 billion of Tether on that chain to just print tons and tons of fees every single month. And that's just going to increase. Like out of all the L1s, I find it difficult, but I do feel like Tron as the alternative to the Swift payment system has got like this walled garden that no one else is going to be able to touch, and might actually be the trade, but it's like a most hated trade.
There's a market for that stuff.
There's a market.
There's a market for it.
A large market for that stuff, yeah. Whether or not I agree with it, there's a market for it. So you're 100% right. So do you think, I guess the question becomes, do you think that the value then accrues to the Tron token, or do you think that the network just grows larger and larger and larger? Because you do need some Tron to transact there. It's not like Solana where it's a fraction of a penny. Like I went over and, I messed around with a couple of shitcoins there just to dip my feet into it. The transactions are kind of, they're a little expensive. It's like $2 or less per transaction. It's like I can do that on mainnet right now, but to your point, there's less censorship, right? There's people turn their eye to what goes on there.
Right. So you pay for illegal money transfers. Like maybe that isn't a big deal if you're moving, $100,000 and you don't want to have any questions asked to you. Like maybe that's the cost of doing business. They are high by design. Like Justin Sun came out the other day and said, hey, we can actually cut these because meme coins are getting more active, because it was cutting so much into like people trading meme coins. I agree with you. Tron does not feel itself, the actual token doesn't feel like a medium of exchange. Like you own ETH, you spend ETH. You own Sol, you spend Sol. Tron only very recently became like a medium of exchange. Before that, it was just a gas token. And maybe there's a shot that they are able to build some dodgy meme coins on the back of it. They're doing a great job of it already,
Justin Sun is doing spaces with Mario and Alpha on Tron meme coins. So he's
incredible.
Incredible. Some interesting discussion. Let's move down to brewing here a little bit, Jeeves, because I know we only got you for maybe 5 to 10 minutes.
So
some of the brewing narratives, you got progressive web apps.
PWA is the mobile infrastructure. I think that's like, go back to talk about Blast for 1 second. And I know, Tyler, we wanted to chat about this one, right? Pac-Man's been coming out tweeting quite a bit about this idea of an entirely frictionless chain, mobile first. And I fall into this. Like, I believe it. I think mobile is going to be where a lot of users end up interacting, primarily with more consumer-facing apps, probably less trading. I personally, I still like to trade, at my computer. I like to see everything. I like to have a bunch of information up. Maybe if it's like a snap trade, I might do it on mobile, but definitely a lot less of that. So he clearly believes in this world. PWAs seem like almost like a bit of a Trojan horse to get people into using things. I think we saw some experiments with Fantasy Top. We saw some experiments with Friend Tech, things that really took off, but they were more or less lightning in a bottle. Nothing's really sustained for a long period of time. So this is one of the things that I'm looking at and trying to figure out, what's the next big one here.
It's interesting. I mean, I like the vision for Blast. I think the question is, once they're full stack, it's still like, so what are people going to open the Blast app on their phone and use it for? I guess is still the question I have in my head, right? And we said the chorus for several months was, well, they're give Pac-Man time, and we did that during the pre-airdrop phase, and now it's like, well, we'll give them another 12 months, and that's fine. Like, these things take time, but I guess I still have line of sight into like what are we going to be using the Blast app on our phones for? Yeah.
I don't know either. Yeah, I think my hardest part too is that a lot of people left with a sour taste in their mouth after that trade. And I think it's really hard to bring back a lot of those users. I think it's going to be an uphill battle for them to really regain some market share. At the same time, I think folks in crypto sometimes have like goldfish brain. And if there's opportunity, they're game to go kind of seek that out. So yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm a bit unclear as to where this goes, but I'll be watching it for a little bit.
I think Blast Intimate might be turning around actually a little bit. Like, I think we got the post airdrop FUD and dump. And now, like, most people left, right? So I think the only people left in the ecosystem are the ones who are actually using it and liking it. And Fantasy Top, I think, is certainly driving it. But I think this kind of raises one of my questions.
Right? Like, it does feel as though one app is like defining it. Like, the Arbitrum is currently being called the Hyper Liquid Bridge. It does feel like Blast is like the Fantasy Top bridge at the moment. Like, one app is really sometimes all you need for for people to feel better about the chain. And Fantasy Top, it feels like people are like happy to gamble with it. Like, it does feel like it's got a good thing going.
And I love Fantasy Top, but like, let's reality check. Fantasy Top has like 1,500 users.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not enough, right?
Yeah. Blast did come out though. One thing I will say is they did come out with some of the more interesting and innovative consumer apps coming out of Big Blast, the launch. There was a lot of fun stuff to do there for like a period of time. It really was great. It's just, I think Mando made a great point. It's like, once the token became live, people generally just lose interest. Trade's over. Farmers are out. Price goes down. Sentiment goes down. Users leave. It snowballs. It's hard to recover.
So I think what Base might be actively proving right now is like this whole, like, we need consumer crypto apps to succeed. Do you? It's like, what consumer crypto app does Base have? Right? Like, they're up to 1 million daily active users.
They had Friend Tech and Friend Pet for a little bit of time.
It did, but not anymore.
No.
And now their user growth is off the charts.
Yeah, what is going on Base? Like, because like the number of users, number of transactions, number of Uniswap pools is like unbelievable. Like, the number of users from Uniswap on Base is like 80% of their users. It's ridiculous. But I don't see any meme coins happening.
Let's look at the activity here on Artemis.
Yeah, I've got the same question. So it's not memes, it's not NFTs. We saw Aave, they breached 100 million in TVL yesterday for the first time. It looks like that just fell under.
100 million TVL. It just doesn't. Is that?
Feels
Zora, like something else
Zora
going on
seems
there.
to be pulling in a lot right now.
Zora.
Zora.
Interesting.
Then it's DeFi, a bunch of DeFi activity, some NFT apps, a little bit of 1155 stuff, but not a ton. Seems to be like NFT focused. I think like small collector focused. People experimenting with that.
That would make sense.
Yeah,
because it's not something that I see. It's not like people are going, "Oh, we'll move into Base for Base season." That happened, and then nothing really happened on the back of it. But yeah, Base has a. I don't know. I don't know if we need consumer crypto apps. I've said this in the start. I feel like payments is kind of and RWAs is like are just so huge. Maybe Tron's the bet, man.
And that's why one of my thoughts
on Russia evading sanctions. Tron is the bet.
And like when I was going through your list, Jeeves, and again, like this is a fantastic list, and it really got my wheels spinning. And I feel like one of my takeaways is that there are so many like consensus crypto narratives, and a lot of times those consensus ones end up being wrong. So
Big time. Yeah.
It definitely does make sense to try to form your own opinions, even try to form contrarian ones. I think
I do love the tokenized luxury goods down here. Yeah. This is actually one of the ones that I love a lot, primarily just because you can issue debt on these. I do want to pop down to the last category here, because I think this is actually the most interesting one, which is dormant narratives. What are the things that are slightly dead that we think could come back here? And I lay out a bunch here, which is political tokens. I don't know if those ever come back. I think that cat's out of the bag. Maybe they run up to some extent leading into the election, but I think that like when you select the right outcome and you lose, it's bad. But people like to gamble, so maybe they have some level of comeback. But then there's also now a ton of bag holders, so likely they sell into a lot of that. Do you guys think these have any shot?
Out of these, I like NFTs. I like NFTs. It feels like they're coming back. We spoke about that yesterday. Risk reward seems okay. The GambleFi narrative, I'm bullish on long-term gambling. Like I just feel as a society we're heading that way. I think it's one of the only ways to re-rate your net wealth. People are reaching for this sort of stuff, whether you like it or not. But I do think the tokens, I don't know about the tokens as much. Rollbit hit a high during the bear market, right? Like people stopped trading with meme coins and they stopped making money on NFTs, and they were like, right, we're just gonna gamble on Rollbit. You could see it feels as though those tokens probably do best if things really start to quieten down.
Yeah, I actually went on to Rollbit yesterday just to give a look at it, and I forgot how great the interface is.
Yeah, UI UX.
It's really well built. Yeah, and I didn't realize they also sponsor like a soccer club now, a football club.
They sponsor Southampton, which is one of the, and they sponsor this stream, but they sponsor Southampton, which is English Premier League team. They just got promoted.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
That's like a big deal. Like, I think Stake sponsored another team for a year, Everton. But yeah, like it's a big deal. Big deal to be sponsoring an EPL team for sure.
It's crazy. Any other ones stand out to you here? Any that you're like, these maybe have a shot, or this one's gonna die?
It's an interesting list. I think Web3 gaming you nailed. I feel like Metaverse has like a shot on like a 10-year time horizon. So like I'm not writing it to zero, but for the next few years, I agree nothing's happening. Points and airdrop farming, that meta got oversaturated. But I also don't think it's gone forever. Yeah, NFTs was a gut punch. Geez, I have to say, seeing NFTs on your dormant narratives list was a tough one. NFT pie seems to be slowing down. I mean, I agree with that. Like that's hard to even argue with.
Yeah, I mean, after this past week, I'm sure that one's hard to swallow. But like a week and a half ago, I think it kind of looked that way. You know, it's like I see everyone just cheering about NFTs, and I mean, I love NFTs, right? Like Claimed Punks was kind of early into a lot of this stuff. I really believe in a lot of it. I just think it's going to be a tough grind back up. But there's going to be these sessions where it's like they just spike, and then a lot of this stuff becomes highly legitimized. And as that happens, user bases grow, collectors grow. We'll kind of see where that one ends up. But you're right. I think NFTs after this past week, I could probably put back up into brewing, but I'm going to leave it sit for another few weeks and see.
Do it. I think the wild card on your list, and we've talked about this before a little bit, is the rise of Doge.
Oh yeah.
So DRC20s, Doginals, and Dunes. So I think we're going to need to see that meme coin super cycle thesis play out, probably for this one to really happen. But in that scenario where Doge goes on a run, Dogefra.
Maybe. Absolutely. Like, why not? I just think know they were doing that.
Yeah, this is like one of the more niche areas that I spent some time in. So you can get like Doge NFTs, liquid Doge tokens. A lot of the Bitcoin infrastructure that's been built out effectively got put over into the Doge ecosystem. And there's a pretty thriving ecosystem of people that participate in that. I bought a couple of NFTs, kind of messed around with that a bit. I still just think Doge on a long-term scale has a lot of a lot of upside potential. And then, you know, Tyler and I talk about this from time to time, but there's this idea that like Elon loves it and there's like integration potential there. Although, you know, when he recently had that Doge meme, was like director of
No one cared.
No one cared at all. I think it went down.
I
That
think
was
as a form of payment, Doge is probably up there top 3, right? Like Bitcoin, ETH, I guess Solana as well now, but like everyone in the world knows about Doge.
100%. I use it to gamble on golf rounds.
Right.
Wow.
Everyone's heard of it. Like they'll be like, oh, the dog coin. Yeah, I remember that. Or like, yeah, I've heard about it. They haven't for Solana, and probably not even for ETH. Like some people have heard of ETH, but Doge is really went mainstream. So if you're thinking about if you need to believe in something, can have value independent of, you know, like we're creating currencies out of nothing here, guys. Like Doge at least has that respectability that it's known.
It's a great point. It has like a really strong brand recognition globally.
Yeah.
Do you have any of the Doge NFTs, Jeeps?
Yeah, I've got 2. There's a few websites you can go to and kind of check them out. They got like a little frothy for a moment. There's also like obviously some tokens there. I think that will go hand in hand with what I have here on like the Bitcoin ecosystem stuff. So we've seen like runes and fungible tokens and ordinals on Bitcoin sort of slow down a little bit. I think the ordinals have recently picked up like node monkeys and Bitcoin puppets a tiny bit, but they really haven't kept up with some of the ETH NFTs. And so that ecosystem, I have trouble sort of seeing the vision for it currently. But it's one of those ones that I don't think you can count out. Everyone always talks about unlocking Bitcoin liquidity, doing all these different applications with it. I think we'll see it when it happens.
Yeah. Jury's out until we see Bitcoin run to 100K. And if ordinals and runes are still dead in that scenario, then we can probably hold the funeral.
100%, yeah.
I have a couple of buddies with some Doge rocks, just closing out the Doge rock. I don't own any, but I like the Doge rock NFT play as a bet on Doge in a 12 to 24 month time horizon. Well, James, this was a great list. Thank you for sharing this with us. This has been a really fun conversation. I know you've got some time constraints here. Sims, if we got Burn with us, maybe it's time for Rollbit. Let's get these Rollbit spins going. As a reminder to everyone, if you haven't done it yet, you're running out of time. Retweet the spaces, follow the hosts to be eligible. Sims, are we ready to go?
We are. We shall do the spin now. Let me roll this in. We are using Twitter Picker. We are still trying to fix one in the back. We're working on this week, so bear with us. We know it's not the best, but we've got to make do with it for now. How many entrants? Have a look. 570. All right. Let's see. We got Tracy Hansen, 3387. Interesting handle. And Madonna, 1199. Hopefully, these aren't bots, but you guys need to request now. We'll give you a minute. If we don't see anything, we'll move on.
All right, Tracy Madonna, come on up.
Tracy Hansi 3387, Madonna 1199. Got a request.
I'm not seeing any requests. Are they coming in?
Don't know. I'm counting down the time though.
All right, clock is ticking.
Not looking so good.
Tracy
no, they're a
Madonna.
bit. Look like sussy usernames. I don't know. Maybe. Oh, never mind. We got one.
Oh, Tracy. All right. Come on up here. Now we're just waiting on Madonna. Do we give Madonna like what, 30 seconds?
Yeah.
More like 10.
These are big wins. If you're not here, then
All right.
I think
I'm going to redraw.
yeah, redraw.
Sorry, Madonna.
Morky Man. Morkie man _.
Marky Man, come on up. Oh, Madonna. Oh, Madonna came. They were just like 5 seconds late.
What do we think?
I will let Marky Man potentially come up. I will wait because we've already moved on. There we go.
Yeah.
We had to do it. Sorry.
Sorry.
Rules
Too
are
late.
rules.
All right. Looks like we've got Morky Man and Tracy on stage. So, Sims, who's up first for us here? Tracy?
We have Tracy first. Tracy, you there? Give us a wave or something. I think they're up anyway, so they've already accepted it, so it's all good. Yeah, spin away, then burn for the first one.
All right.
Here you go.
Here we go. Hold on.
Ooh.
And
Oh,
it's
you
a
want
rec
a
guy.
Decent looking wreck guy. Best one in the collection, that one.
All right. $1,800. Not a bad little, not a bad wrecked guy there. Tracy, enjoy your new wreck guy NFT. Not bad for a Tuesday morning listening to Spaces. All right. Who do we got up? Now, Morky.
Morky Man. Let's have it
Morky
burn.
Man's up. All right. Let's spin. Here we go.
Okay. Come on.
Big win, big win, big win.
Oh,
And it's a wreck
Oh.
guy. Oh,
Another
so
wreck guy.
close. Yes. Another wreck guy. Another nice win here for this Tuesday. 2 wreck guys. So Burn and team will contact you after the show to work through all this. Thank you for listening. Folks, but that's it. That's going to be our show. Jeeves, thank you so much for coming on. This was great. We'll have to have you
yeah. Thanks a
back.
lot, man.
Thanks, fellas. Appreciate it.
Mando, thank you as always. Thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in today. Thank you to Rollbit, our sponsor as well. Everyone, enjoy your Tuesday. We will see you tomorrow.